And for me, that's that's sort of what my painting's about. It's not about Monet, of course, but it's about that connection between an observed reality and an expressed. It's whatever comes out after I've thoroughly looked at something. And I never know what it's going to be, frankly. This one's something I got a lot of others, but this one stays on me for some reason.
Yeah, it has mojo. It has,
and it's just,
mana.
I think there's one in a book just like it.
Yeah, it looks like a great old bracelet. One I will be liking to look at soon. So I've Jim Cook here, and we're talking about bracelets. For those who watch this on YouTube, they can actually see the bracelets, and it's you get a bracelet and you just want to keep it on the whole time. There's certain things that just have some kind of mana or spirit. So Jim has a really great old bracelet. I can see the cold chisel marks on it. It's an ingot bracelet. It's one of those ones that just doesn't leave.
This one's repoussé.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what repoussé is, it's you bang it out from the back and pushes it out to the front. And the earlier bracelets often would have those kind of things.
Yeah.
But we're not here with an Indian art dealer, even though it sounds like this podcast is about.
Almost looks like it too.
Yeah. But we're here with a person who is a really excellent painter. And I don't know if you call yourself a landscape painter, a city painter. I mean, you paint such a variety of artwork.
Yeah, I paint.
Yeah, you paint. That's right. I think that's the best way. I mean, I'm very familiar with your artwork. I've seen it for years and years and years. I'm very fortunate at this point in my career to finally have Jim come on board to the gallery, and his main gallery is closing down here in Tucson. So Davis Dominguez, we'll be sorry to see them go. You've been with them for how long?
Oh, I don't know, over 30 years.
That's a long time.
They're very nice people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big loss for Tucson.
Upstanding. Yeah, I think so.
In fact, you need to, when you see him, tell him to come over. I want to put him on the podcast just so we can talk about his career as a contemporary art dealer. And, it's funny because you're in his gallery, which is really, I would consider it to be a contemporary art gallery.
Yeah.
But you tread water you have both feet in both areas, in my opinion. For those who are watching on the podcast, they can see pictures of your paintings in the background. But you can do abstraction to more of a realism. You just kind of flow in between the two, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You think
I try to?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I try to, but it's in me.
Yeah.
And it comes out various ways. I told somebody one time, it's like inhaling and exhaling. You take in information and you exhale. Sometimes it's sort of abstraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's how I write. I take in different little nuggets, and all of a sudden there's a puzzle put together.
Right.
And hopefully it doesn't take a massive amount of time. And it's probably the same for you. Some of these paintings probably take a long time to paint, and some just come quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, that's always been the case.
Yeah. So where'd you grow up? Kansas, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eastern Kansas in the Flint Hills, cattle country, and my great-grandfather and my grandfather were cattlemen, and they spent, they came in 1870.
Wow, it's really early in Kansas then.
Yeah, there wasn't much there.
Yeah.
Indians.
Yeah, Indians, right?
Right.
I mean, what were the Comanches in that area?
I don't know. Kansas.
Yeah, they would have been. They were everywhere.
They were.
Texas, Oklahoma, probably there as well.
But there were Pawnee north of there.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Potawatomis came in with treaties, and they got reservations in there, so it started to become a little like Oklahoma.
This was your grandfather and your great-grandfather. And what does your father do?
He was a merchant.
What, had a store?
Hardware business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was probably a very
general store.
Lucrative business at the time.
At the time it was, yeah.
Yeah. And what town would this have been in?
Eskridge.
Where was it?
Eskridge,
And where exactly? What's for those who don't know Kansas?
30 miles from Topeka.
Okay, there we go. Some of us know nothing about Kansas.
Yeah.
Though one of my
Most of you don't know anything.
Well, I have one person who does, Jerry Friend, who works here. He's been on the podcast. He's worked from here for almost 30 years. He is from Kansas, Dodge City. So he'll know.
That's out in the flat.
It's on the other side.
Yeah, they say stand on a tuna can and you can see forever.
Yeah. So when you were growing up in Kansas,
right.
And so you were a city boy, really, right?
Not really.
Well, when I say
town boy,
when I say that, I mean you guys didn't have a ranch or farm at that time,
right?
Yeah.
My granddad did, but not me.
Yeah, because I mean, where I grew up in eastern New Mexico, which is cattle country, because wasn't on a ranch or a farm, which most people were, they would consider me a city boy versus a country boy.
Right.
And
I guess that would be me
too as well. But you probably worked in your dad's store.
I did.
Yeah. And did that teach you anything?
I don't want to do that anymore.
Which is why you have galleries instead of trying to.
Yeah, well, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Business is business. I guess.
It is really to some extent.
Yeah.
And so you grow up in a big family or small family?
Small. Brother only.
One brother. And is he older or younger?
He's younger.
And was he interested in the art as well?
Little.
Yeah.
Hard to follow a big brother, though.
Yeah, I bet. It is. Especially if you were successful. And you had a nice Wikipedia page, so I did a little bit of reading beforehand. And it sounds like early on you kind of had a sense of art.
Yeah. I don't know when it started, but I think my grandfather was a Sunday painter, not the cattleman, but the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And I inherited his easel and his palette and all that. And so it was kind of like, but my dad didn't want me to be an artist. So.
Yeah, what did he want you to be?
I don't know, but not an artist.
A businessman of some type, maybe.
Something, yeah.
But you had a skill set that came out early on?
Yeah.
Did you win any awards or were recognized when you were in like grade school? Yeah,
I got to paint the stage flats for the plays and stuff like that, which was great because I got out of school. And I got the prettiest girl in town to help me. So.
And was this in like grade school time frame?
Yeah.
So somebody recognized right away that you had.
I was the only one that could do it. I used to sell pictures of airplanes for $0.25. And some, like President's birthday, I'd sell pictures of George Washington for $0.25. So I always had money.
And you were effective as just as a little kid.
Yeah, it worked. That was his second grade. So yeah, I'd say that was pretty good.
So it's really interesting. You follow the line of almost every artist I've interviewed that won an award or got recognition in grade school. And that was a factor, in whether it's just developing a sense of self and who you are to wanting to be an artist. Do you think that was kind of true in your case as well? Yeah,
it's like you're on a path for a long time and don't really know it, but suddenly you're out there. So.
And so you graduate from high school in what time frame? Mid-60s?
Mid-60s, yeah.
So was it, what year was it?
1965.
So the Vietnam War was starting to.
Very present.
To kicking, yeah.
Very present in my life.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, it was sort of a struggle to keep ahead of the draft board. And as it turned out, I did get drafted, and they kicked me out. So,
was that later that you got drafted?
Yeah, after it was 69 in, I think I was finished. I was in grad school at that point, but I did get drafted and I got sworn in, and they decided they didn't want me.
And what was your number? Do you remember?
1, something like that.
You got one of the very first ones.
Yeah,
so you knew you were. Yeah,
I was going.
And so when you get that number in 16, so you're gone to college at this point.
Yeah.
And you're in graduate school.
Right.
And you get the number, so you're going. Do you go and say, okay, well, I might as well go and sign up so I can get some place that I want to go, or did you just get drafted?
I got drafted.
Yeah.
And but I was I don't know, I was kind of psyched about the whole thing. because when I was a freshman, or just before I was a freshman, I got a letter from West Point from Bob Dole.
Mm-hmm. Kansas guy.
Yeah, and he wanted a friend of mine and I to go to West Point, and I always thought it was sort of an interesting thought, but I didn't do it. So
how did he get your information? You must have been very good at school then.
Boys State, American Legion Boys State, went to that, and it's a week of creating a state, and you're elected to office. I don't know if they do it anymore.
I think they do,
but that was interesting, and anybody who got elected high office in Boys State probably got a letter from Bob Dole. So,
did your friend go to West Point?
No,
neither
he's
did.
a judge.
So he did kind of follow that
a little, yeah, more than me.
Yeah. So you got drafted. You went. You did. Did you make it through basics?
No, I didn't even make it out of the induction center.
Oh,
I got sworn in, and then somebody called. My doctor called and said I couldn't go, and they bought me out.
Yeah.
So I wish I'd have known that 5 years before. It would have been a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, because you were worried about going.
Oh, everybody was.
I would think so. I mean, my brother.
it was just a
age.
shredder,
Yeah.
It was indiscriminate, and it just, of course, all our friends were coming back and telling tales or not coming back at all.
Right.
And it was grim.
Yeah.
So my life began immediately after I got out of the induction center, and it's sort of, like, poof, and you think, oh,
you're free.
I can do what I really want to do now. Of course, I couldn't.
Yeah. What was your dad thought of you going to Vietnam?
Oh, he didn't want that.
Yeah, that's good. Some would. Kansas is,
well,
pretty conservative area generally.
Yeah, and it is, but Kansas is a complicated place. It has, we had that terrible bloody Civil War, and the sides were drawn, and they still are.
Yeah, the Jayhawkers and the.
Yeah, when a Missouri license plate showed up in my hometown, everybody looked at the car, and it was very,
suspiciously.
Yeah, the old Redlegs and Jayhawkers and all that border warfare.
Yes,
not good, and it's still there.
Still, even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's interesting.
Not as much, but so.
And where did you go to college? Wichita?
Emporia.
And
then Wichita.
And did you go directly into fine arts?
Pretty much. I mean, it was this little college. It's very small.
But you knew you wanted to be an artist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At that point, there was no anybody, and your dad tried to persuade you to do something a little different.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
After he saw what I was doing, though, after he saw the paintings coming out, he didn't. He was pretty supportive.
Yeah.
He got me. He started buying wholesale paint from Utrecht in New York and Brooklyn. So
yeah, clearly he was okay with it.
Greased the skids a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but it was not a struggle for me to do this. I mean, it wasn't really any resistance, except the fact that the Midwest was it was as devoid of galleries as it is flat. There's just nothing out there.
That's a wonderful statement, by the way. It's as devoid of galleries as it is flat.
But, I think there were about 2 or 3 or 4, and Myra Morgan in Kansas City was one. And I always thought she was fantastic. Eventually, I ended up in a gallery when I was 50-something. And I thought, well, you finally, I wanted to be in her gallery when I was 19,
Yeah.
But she didn't care about me when I was 19.
Yeah.
So.
And did you contact her to get into the gallery, or did she contact you?
I contacted her.
Yeah.
I never forgot.
And how did it work out?
Well, it worked out great until she died, and then her son took over, Dennis, and he was a junkie and he OD'd.
Yeah.
Real sad.
And then that was it.
He was a nice guy and had a big, terrible problem, and so the gallery closed. But
so you go to Emporia, then you go to Wichita, and you get your BFA.
BFA, then MFA,
and then you went. And where did you get your MFA? Was that in Wichita?
Wichita.
And so you graduate from there in, what is that, about
72? 1 or 2, I can't remember exactly.
Still single?
Somewhere in between.
Still single at this point?
No, I was married then.
Yeah, you got married. Happened a lot in our generation.
Right after the war, and then you thought, oh, I better straighten up.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't have done.
A learning experience. Well, you're young. You're 21, 22, and you get married.
Right.
And so you're graduated with your master's.
Right.
And what do you think you're going to do with your life?
Well, the common wisdom was that you couldn't possibly make it as a painter. So you had to teach. So ergo, I went and got my MFA, which, as near as I can tell, was totally useless. But it allowed me to teach. So I started shopping around for a job and got one down here at U of A. And that was okay.
It was 72 or so that you came here?
Right.
What did you think from coming to Kansas to Tucson, Arizona? That's a switcheroo, huh?
Well, actually, we had family down here.
You did?
Yeah, and not in Tucson, but in Scottsdale. I had my great-grandfather had a house in Phoenix back in the teens. And my great-grandmother taught at the Pima School, Indian school. And then I had a great uncle who was an Indian agent in Winslow. And
did you see those people a lot while you were growing up? Did you come out to Phoenix?
Yeah. I kind of was predisposed to like Arizona because, there was always Navajo stuff around and baskets and pots and people. I read stories by J. Frank Dobie and, Apache gold and Yaqui silver and the Lost Dutchman mine and all that stuff. So pretty romantic place for me.
And you got to know your grandmother and grandfather?
Not my great-grandmother.
Yeah.
But everybody was sort of in that. They all were fans. And I had 2 maiden great aunts that they owned a big bunch of land north of Camelback on McDonald Drive, if you know where that is.
I do.
And they built a really neat, kind of a modernist house up there in the 30s. And
wow.
So that was my linchpin that held, Arizona to me, because it was just so cool and so unlike anything that I grew up with.
And is that house still there? That modern?
Yeah, it is. They sold the house, and the guy that bought it started adding on to it. It was I've forgotten who the architect was, but kind of a famous architect. Yeah, it escapes me right now. But they changed it quite a bit, which is too bad because it was a classic. It had 3 rooms on the top story, and each room had 3 windows that opened. There were so the breezes could blow.
Right,
through.
and it was looking right. Was that right at the base of Camelback?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was, and then I visited Winslow to see my great uncle, and anyway.
And he was the BIA agent?
Yeah.
And so he probably had lots of Native American art in his.
No.
He didn't.
No.
That's shocking.
But he had Indians around.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I used to work on their cars, and Navajo would come in and line up along the wall of the garage. They always kind of spooked me, but they were really pleasant, but they never said anything. And I asked my great uncle what they were doing, and he said they're just visiting.
Yeah.
But they didn't say anything.
Yeah, they might not have had much to say to you,
Well,
or
I'm
they
sure
did, or they didn't speak English.
That's possible.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that time frame.
But I got to have an affection for the people.
Yeah, oh, they were wonderful, and the sense of humor is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone and painted the reservation at all?
A little.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not. I should, but
I could see your paintings really resonating.
Well, the canyon, the canyon forms are very. They interest me, and still do. I used to spend quite a bit of time with Merrill Mahaffey, and he got me. He changed my sense of volumes, and just kind of opened a little door there.
Yeah, I just
you show his work.
I do. In fact, just did a podcast with him.
Okay.
And there's some new work. When you get out of here, I'll show you that he's doing grid work, which is really a modernist kind of thing that he's come back to from when he was first beginning.
Yeah, we started, when I started showing in Scottsdale with Suzanne Brown, and I think he showed with her at the time.
He did.
And she wanted me to paint oil paintings because I was showing almost exclusively plein air watercolor with her. Which I was doing all around, like Sabino Canyon and up at Oracle. And you knew Bruce McGrew, I presume. Yep. Bruce and I and Doug Denniston and some of those guys, Jim Davis, would go out and paint.
Now, what years was this that you were with Suzanne Brown?
Oh, I don't know.
Late 80s, early 90s?
No. It was earlier than that. It was 79.
Oh yeah, so when she was getting going.
Yeah. But
and Ed was there. Ed Mel.
Yeah.
Yeah, or he would have been there later. He got to there probably 82 or so, I think.
I was still there.
Yeah.
But I never quite made the jump to the stuff she liked with oil. I was going out and painting plein air in oil, but she didn't care for it for some reason. I didn't care for it either.
Maybe that's why. Maybe she could feel it.
Yeah,
but when you move out here in '72, so you practice as a teacher at the University of Arizona for what, 8 years or so?
7.
Yeah, and at some point you must have said, "Okay, this is not what I signed up for."
Yeah. Yeah, I had to set 3 alarm clocks.
Were you painting as you were showing, as you were working as a teacher?
Yeah. Right. And there was more teaching and less painting.
And that's what was getting to you.
I cared for.
Yeah. Because you would be too tired to come and really paint like you
Well, and it just, to do a good job with students, you got to give them a lot. And it's turned out to be too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just bowed out, and then all the trouble started.
Well, would you recommend for people that are listening to this for them to go to art school or to go to a university setting to get an art education?
Well, I sent my daughter there.
Yes. Okay. So that's a positive.
I mean, but for somebody to start and jump straight into painting or sculpting without any preparation, it's very difficult. And I mean, I could have done it, but most people, I don't really think they can.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it might be as simple as going and studying with a specific individual for 8 months or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that would work. But I think some people really like the university system. I'm not one of those people. But it's not because it's intrinsically the wrong thing. I don't mean that. But there are other things, administrative duties and the faculty meetings and the constant bickering and stuff. It just doesn't work for me. I can't do it.
Did you learn from the students yourself on with your art?
No.
Not so much.
No.
Yeah, it was more of a one-way street.
Well, I mean, they're really very nice people, but I didn't know one of them that could paint, so
Yeah.
that wasn't where we were going.
So you said the real trouble begins after you quit.
Yeah, the art business. I got in a show in Chicago with Frumkin and Struve, which was a big time gallery in Chicago at the time. And Alan Frumkin was a New York dealer on 57th Street and 50 West 57th. And then Bill Struve ran the operation in Chicago. And the idea was you joined the gallery in Chicago, and then you were promoted to New York. And so that went pretty well. And I did the drill, and I ended up changing galleries in New York to Tatishchev. Peter Tatishchev was in the same building as Frumkin. And I don't know. Peter was a white Russian aristocrat and very, very conservative. And Frumkin was Jewish, he was an incredible mind, just an incredible mind. Wonderful taste. I should have been more flattered than I was. But anyway, so I made my living from Chicago and New York for a long time until 2000, somewhere in there, around 2000.
And before this time, you're still living in Tucson, right? You're still showing with Suzanne Brown.
No, I wasn't at that point.
Not quite yet. But.
Actually, I had no representation in Arizona. If you remember Pam and Roger Harlan, I showed with them.
I don't know them.
Lovely people that had a contemporary gallery in Tucson. They're still around, and think highly of them. But I had a lot of support in Tucson, collectors, but no gallery.
You were never tempted to go, okay, I need to get to New York. This is where my gallery is, or galleries.
Tempted, but I never did it.
Why do you think that is?
I just know too much about New York, I guess.
The galleries or the city?
I'm
a
both? Western person.
Yeah. So that's the bottom line, really.
Yeah. My painting is about the land, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think I fit back there. I had a friend, Garner Tullis, who ran a print shop in Manhattan down on White Street in Tribeca. And I spent a couple years working off and on in his studio, doing monotypes and big.
In Tribeca?
Yeah. And I spent a lot of time in New York, and I, of course, had a gallery, but I just, I miss the land.
So you were there. So you did spend time in New York. So you had ample opportunity to figure out whether I wanted to or not.
I think so. Yeah. I thought I got another gallery. All these people died on me. Frumkin died. Tatishchev died. So I got a guy named Robert Steele, a Brit, who was really a smart guy, and he had a gallery in Chelsea, and I showed with him for a while. And that I really liked him. He showed. I don't know if you know Lee Tribe, the sculptor.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, some very good people.
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't know. I just couldn't get in it and stay in it.
And you're doing these Western landscapes, kind of heavy impasto at this point in time?
Well, the paintings are the same. The subject matter is a little different. I mean, I may be doing New England. I painted in Maine, and I painted in upstate New York, and I painted in the Midwest. I mean, like in the Chicago area. And my wife and I lived in Galena, Illinois for a while, which is a beautiful town on the Mississippi, or
I know where that is, actually.
Near Dubuque.
Mm-hmm.
And we loved Galena. And
how'd you end up there?
I took a painting trip down the Mississippi. My wife and I did, from St. Paul to New Orleans, and just stopped, and painted plein air all the way down. And I just loved Galena. It was a wonderful place.
Mm-hmm. A lot of history, for sure.
Yeah. Ulysses Grant came from there.
Yeah.
And his house is there. Anyway, I'm at that time, I wasn't as much of a history buff as I was just a land buff. And the area around Galena is what they call a driftless zone, which means the glaciers didn't come down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't scraped flat. And it had just beautiful rolling hills and patchwork farm practice. And then, the first street was 1820 buildings, and then the next street up was 1830, and the next street. And so on. And the top of the hill was about 1875. And then the town went bust because the railroad passed it by. But they didn't have enough money to tear it all down, so they fixed it up. And so it's architecturally a really interesting place.
Wasn't the Grant's father's grocery store or store there?
Yeah, he was a tanner.
He tanned, right?
And I think he had something to do with lead too.
Yeah, I know Grant worked in that and hated it.
Yeah.
Is that still there, that building, do you know?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But the building's still there. But I don't think I ever tore anything down in Galena unless it just fell down.
Yeah, and you stayed there for how long?
Oh, just a year.
Uh-huh.
And we kind of talked about staying, but I got stuck in Tucson with real estate. So
you couldn't sell your house here?
Couldn't sell my house here.
What year was that?
I don't remember.
80s. Early 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that recession, whenever that was.
82.
Yeah.
And so do you still have that house?
In Galena?
No.
The one Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's too small. I didn't choose it,
Yeah. You could sell it now, though.
I could sell it, yeah. Somebody wants to buy it every day.
Yeah, you could sell it and you could go back to Galena right now and probably do really well.
Yeah, but it's too late.
Yeah. Well, you've got massively deep roots in Tucson.
Yeah, it's over.
And so when you were painting these paintings, you were doing plein air at that time, primarily? When you're showing in New York and you're showing in Chicago?
Lot of plein air, but not exclusively. It's like, plein air is really great, but there are things that don't happen because of plein air.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
Well, like painting. I mean, like
studio
guts.
Work. Yeah.
The guts of it is the kind of work that I do isn't really about the direct contact with nature at that moment that goes on the canvas. It's something that's digested, processed, because my painting is about art too.
Mm-hmm.
It's about Jackson Pollock or de Kooning, or it's about Monet, or it's about Velázquez, or it's not just about what happens between me and the rock, and I think all the time that I spent painting outdoors has given me this kind of resource that informs what goes on in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And without that resource, I'd be pretty lost.
And so before you begin a painting, do you go and get reference material outdoors and do either photographs or small plein air paintings?
Sometimes I do it from memory. But it's in equal portions, really.
Mm. And you like to paint really large, right?
I do paint pretty large.
Yeah. And what's the advantage of doing that?
People buy them.
Okay, well.
And I like to
do you find that they still buy them? The reason I ask this is some house structures have changed too. I mean, as a dealer, I see this as far as houses getting smaller, more windows, those kind of things. So I personally love big works and encourage my
I
artists
sell
to do them.
more 60 by 70 paintings than any other side.
Yeah.
So, but to me, the gesture is different on a big painting, and it just, there's something that comes alive in that big format that just isn't there in the little paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And my people that buy my paintings have told me that.
Mm.
I don't know if that's my fault or that I should do better with the little ones or what.
No, necessarily. I mean, I think Louise McElwain and her big ones had that same sensibility.
Mm-hmm.
As she got bigger, she got freer. You could see the emotional energy that would come out of her
Mm-hmm.
work versus the smaller ones that seemed to be a little
And
tighter.
I think that's my reality too.
Mm.
So, but as I said, my paintings are really, after the nature it flows in, and my ideas about what painting can be, or what a space can be, what a flat space can be, comes out after the digestive process.
Mm.
And I don't think I can work without the duality of that. There's something. Well, I was just reading a real interesting book about Monet and his water lily paintings. I've forgotten the name of it, but it's sort of like the ecstasy of something. Wonderful book. And he was constantly looking at the water, at the ponds.
Mm-hmm.
And yet what you see when you look at his paintings is painting.
Yeah.
It's not any sense of verisimilitude in the way that he depicts them. There's an expression that's clearly related to the ponds, but it's not what we would call photographic.
Oh yeah, especially his later ones. As he got, I mean, they really
just
became
opened up.
abstract.
Right.
Yeah, his bridges became just where you can barely see the bridge versus the actual bridge.
And for me, that's that's sort of what my painting's about. It's not about Monet, of course, but it's about that connection between an observed reality and an expressed. It's whatever comes out after I've thoroughly looked at something.
Mm.
And I never know what it's going to be, frankly.
And looked at, not just visually looked at, but mentally thinking.
Exactly.
Letting it turn in your mind.
Right. And I do a lot of drawing, like probably hundreds of drawings with fountain pen and that. And that's part of the process too, where the thing just kind of flows out and becomes, it gets reduced to a line, and it's not a line to start with. There's nothing linear about the form at all, often. And then once it's reduced to a line, then it comes out and turns into something else.
And you always do that with your paintings beforehand? To do a drawing?
Well, not literally always, but I do also do grisailles of, underneath the paintings, and it's in black and white gesso, and that helps me structure the vision that I have. And sometimes it's like drawing for me. Sometimes I don't draw at all. And I just do the grisaille. So.
And you do that first before you add in paint or color? Yeah. Wow. Because your paintings always have, or at least the ones I've seen and been associated, and I want to see a lot more, which I hope to do, are very heavy in impasto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thick, lovely, delicious paint that
you
want to.
Sculptural.
Yeah, there is for sure.
For me, it's sculpture and thin sculpture. A little, But there's some connection between the leaf I pick off the tree, and then that reality becomes eventually the thing in pain. Not literally, but there's a connection. Like,
and you're painting both with brushes as well as palette knives, trowels.
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Yeah,
sticks.
Yeah. Do you paint with sticks? Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When it's called for.
Yeah, trowels, mason's trowels.
Yes.
I use a lot of mason's trowels.
And do you sculpt at all? Other than in the painting?
Have done.
Yeah.
Not as much as my daughter will do that.
And what does she do? What is your daughter? She's a practicing artist as well?
Yeah.
Your wife is too, right?
Yeah. My daughter's 24 and she's very good.
Does she live here in Tucson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's give a shout out to her artwork. What's her name and her website?
Ellen Cook. And she's got a big ceramic kiln, and she's doing a lot of, right now she's doing a series of painting, taking a painting, and specifically John Singer Sargent right now, taking a painting and turning the figure into 3 dimensions. And I don't know if you know the sculpture Madame X by Sargent.
I do.
And then there's another one of this gal in Morocco with this big, took her veil and held it out like this, and she's inhaling
spice or something.
Yeah, something. I don't know what it was. It's called fume something. And so she's doing these wonderful sculptures, and they're kind of this big.
And they're clay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but she's got some, and then she's painting. She's done a series on San Javier, and she did a really wonderful painting of was it the 8th Cavalry coming out of Fort Bowie, which is terrific painting. They're not big,
And are these realistic kind of paintings?
Yeah, they're quite realistic.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. Does she have a website?
Yes.
It is the Ellen Cook.
I don't know. I think you have to get it through mine right now.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's down at the bottom. You can link to
it. Yeah, I'll check it out too. Always looking for the young.
You should.
Well, you should as a gallerist.
Absolutely.
You need to. I mean, I have
future.
somebody who's Josh Gibson, who's 26. He just graduated 2 years ago from CCA, and he's very talented. I've watched him work for many, many, many years. He grew up in Tucson, but lives in Oakland. And so, you never know where you're going to find that next person that really just, you go, oh my gosh, this is.
Well, I would have as much travail as this has been in my life. But my daughter never wanted to do anything but be an artist. So, and if she hadn't been good, I would have really discouraged her, because it's tough. It can be tough.
And what is the obstacles that one has to go against? You've been doing this for 50 years now.
It takes a long time just to be able to live off your art. That's quite a challenge.
I would think so.
I mean, even if you're pretty famous and there's still, you track it with the Dow Jones, sort of how you're going to do.
That's right.
And so there's that. And then there's the constant struggle with art dealers.
Yeah, tell us about that. No, it's true. Well, I think there is.
I don't mean to personalize this.
No, actually, I find it interesting because there is a lot of oppositional relationships, I think, with art dealers.
It can be really a good relationship.
It can be a great relationship.
Isn't necessarily helpful to you.
Yeah. I think it is to have a good relationship with you.
No, the artist can have a really good relationship with a dealer, and the dealer may not be doing them any favor at all. Because of the way he markets, you may like somebody a lot, and yet just recently, my gallery here in town, the Davis Dominguez, closed. They retired. sad. Wonderful gallery, nice people, honest people, hardworking people. And so that, where does one go? If you're locally well known but not nationally well known, hard thing. And then I had another gallery. I just had a show in Taos, and the show did really well. She closed. So.
Well, why did she close?
She's moving to New York.
But not to do art, just to.
Oh yeah, she's going to do art. Maybe.
So maybe you'll follow her to New York.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. But it's just then then you're shipping paintings all over the place, and the dealers I've got about 8-9 galleries, and you become a freight forwarding agent. You're a secretary, and you're maintaining this complicated inventory that goes in, and then you have people that aren't so honest, and so it's a job.
And have you been ripped off by gallerists in the past?
Not much.
Yeah.
I had one in Philadelphia that just plain stole painting.
Yeah.
2 paintings. Yeah, I eventually got him to pay for one of them.
I mean, it is an issue. I mean, I talk to artists all the time that have had problems like that. And what I always say to an artist if they're looking at a gallerist to join them is talk to the other artist first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because they're going to give you the real lowdown if this guy.
Yeah, but you don't know whether it's their fault. That the problem is the artist's fault or
right.
It's
but it at least gives you a guideline of something. And the really bad gallerists, and they are out there, the word will be out on the street if you take the time to.
This guy in Philadelphia called me last year, said, "Can I get some paintings?" I said, "Well, yeah, pay me for the one you didn't." And he said, "How much do I owe you?" And I told him, and he didn't call me back.
And if he had paid you, would you given him anything?
No.
Yeah, smart. See, that's the thing. You can't. Once you're bad, you're always bad, in my opinion.
Fool me once. Shame on you.
That's right.
But then it's hard because some gallerists are just like, I've got one gallerist that is a lovely person, and she wonderful salesperson, knows more about painting than almost anybody that I deal with. And she was educated at the Sorbonne and was a Barbizon school painter student and dealer. She worked for Lowe's in Boston.
Yeah, very good guy.
And but she just doesn't know how to do business, keep records. And, she's just always selling, but never. So we just got everything just gnarled up, and it's just. And I really like her, and I'd really like her to be my art dealer, but crazy.
Well, I think on something like that, you actually have to talk to them and have it come to Jesus and say, here's the reasons why. And if they're a good business person or have any business sense, they're going to take that and go, okay, I'm not going to have this artist. I'm not going to be able to, who I like and can sell because of my business practice. And not because they're unscrupulous, but they're just not, keeping good accounting, getting paid on time.
So you hire somebody.
Kind of you hire people.
And that's acceptable.
That's right. You have to.
We can't. So all these things are part of the sort of the downside, and then you're only as good as your next show.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that?
Not as much as I used to, but a little.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's 10,000 kids just graduated with an MFA, and they've all got high hopes. So you better be good.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cousin that she wanted to go to New York and be an actress. And I talked to her about it. And I said, "Are you the best actress that you ever met? I mean, really, by far, you're the most talented, And she said, "Yeah, I think so."
Yeah, then she's the right person to go to.
Then she might have a chance.
Yeah, that's right.
She didn't.
She still didn't make it.
No.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It is. And that, then think about art. And if you're really, really, really good, and that's one of the things I would have resisted my daughter being an artist if she hadn't been really good. But she is. So
what if she wasn't the greatest you've seen, but her passion was completely there and that's all she wanted to do?
Passion doesn't get it.
So you'd say that, huh? That's interesting. You might be right.
You got to have a good hand.
Yeah.
One elderly friend of ours who was a great art collector, when he watched my daughter for a while, and he said, "She has the fingers of an angel." And it's kind of true.
Yeah. They said that about Dixon. He had these facile hands that could just move so quickly and just smoothly. Dorothea said that, actually, Dorothea Lange.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that, you can't
teach.
You can't teach it. It's when you see it, you just get out of its way, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an interesting household.
Everyone's an artist, right?
Tiptoeing around each other.
And so now you've been doing this for approximately 50 years, right?
Yeah.
And how have you seen the art market change in that period of time?
Well, I'm grateful that what I do is far more acceptable now than it was when I started. Landscape painting is, and in fact, figurative painting in every sort is on the ascendancy and not in decline. In 1970, it was dead in the water.
I bet everyone wanted it.
Yeah,
modern art, right?
Yeah, Philip Perlstein was, and there were a few. William Bailey, him from Yale. I mean, there were a few kind of snapping turtles in the mud, that wouldn't change. But that I've seen the growth of plein air artists in the West, especially, but not exclusively. They're all over, and they have shows and clubs, and they have summer retreats, and they teach classes in the mountains, and it's amazing how many people are actually out there with their easel painting Long's Peak or something. It's.
Do you consider yourself a plein air painter?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put you in that category myself.
I mean, I've done an awful lot of it, but no.
Yeah, that's not your.
No.
I wouldn't see that either.
I know that just narrows me down too much for me. I admire people who do it. But my painting is about painting. And it takes me where it takes me. I don't know. I never know where it's going.
That's the great fun and mystery in some ways. Maybe fun's not the right word, but
it's fun.
Is it? Good.
Yeah. It gets really exciting.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And very frustrating too. I have never shot a painting, but I've thought about it.
I'm sure you've scraped some.
Yeah. With great prejudice. I did that a couple days ago. Not the whole thing.
Yeah, but there's a part where you go, this just isn't working. It's not there. What is when you scrape a painting like that? What's the emotional feeling of that?
I don't know what it's going to be, but it isn't going to be that.
Yeah,
it can't be that.
Is it anger though? Almost?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
But by the time you get it off, you feel better.
Yeah.
So,
It's like you can start anew because you could put a whole day in to so many days and then goodbye.
I don't like that. That's not practical.
Yeah. Well, how fast do you paint?
Pretty fast, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Well, some guy said, takes me 6 hours and 40 years.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with the physician, you know. Oh, well, they took out that, hot gallbladder in, 45 minutes. Yeah. Well, it was 40 years of doing it and understanding it and knowing how deep that first cut's going to be. And I think it's the same with painting.
Try not to kill you.
And you go a little too deep and you're toast. So there is a real, I mean, Dixon was exceptionally fast as far as painting. He was just very quick.
Well, if it's not, for me, for my painting, it's not fast, it's not right.
Yeah.
Because there has to be energy in the mark. And the paint itself has to come alive under my tool, whatever it is. I have to see nature flash back at me what I'm thinking. And then, then it's right. But if it doesn't do that, and it keeps not doing that, then it has to go.
There's an emotional connection that you feel, and hopefully the viewer feels too.
Right.
I mean, that's what I look for in paintings, is that emotional connection.
Right.
I care less if it looks like that butte or whatever. If there's something that captures the light, the essence, the flow, the movement, the composition.
It's sort of the idea of a study, which sounds like a simple word. You see it in the title of a painting. But for me, it really has a specific meaning. It means I'm thinking about that. And this is part of my thought process. But it isn't necessarily a verisimilitudinous of that object or that place. Or that, this is the study process. So.
And that hasn't changed over the years?
No.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Actually, hopefully it's been informed over the years.
And easier.
Better.
Yeah.
Better, not easier.
There you go. It never is easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's always a struggle. Yeah. Any parting words for people that will be listening to this podcast? Artists, collectors, other dealers?
No.
Just paint?
Yeah. Well, if I was talking to a student, work hard. Really hard. Because it's hard.
Yeah, I think everyone should listen to this podcast that is thinking about going into art as a profession. That it's a great calling. If it's all you can do and want to do, you should do it. But don't be, fooled. It is hard.
Yeah, and you have to believe in the divine if you want to be really connected with it, because there's something spiritual and supernatural about what goes on in there somewhere. I find it essential that there's that, the more you see these beautiful things, the more we're part of something really large. And painters are kind of like the peephole through. So.
Yeah, they are. I agree. Jim Cook, I'm thrilled to have you in my gallery. It's been
looking forward to
a million years coming. I've been
a long time. I don't remember how long, but
20 years probably. I mean, I've always I've always loved your work. Always been a fan, and have said that. It was not that long ago, actually. About less than a month ago, I bet somebody was asking me about your work. I said, "Yeah, I love his work."
Well, good.
And now I not only love his work, but I have the opportunity to represent you, because that's the way life works sometimes. Galleries come and then they ultimately go, and so it's my go around and regardless, just to be able to spend a little time and kind of get understanding of your process and who you are and why you are. That helps me as a dealer to be able to talk about your work and to have a sense of what's going on in one of these paintings. Because I think to really be able to sell a piece of art, and we are in the business of selling, no doubt. But you really have to understand the art too. You have to understand the artist. You need to understand where it comes from and what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And if you can get that grip of what that is, I think it gives you a great insight that you can, give to your collector. And so now I think I have a better insight into who you are. A little bit. I'm going to learn more.
Yeah. We're hopefully this is a long connection.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know, but you hope.
Yeah.
I don't take many artists in, and when I do, I feel a connection to the work and to the person. So I have that with your pieces. So it's going to be thrilling for me. Great. Jim Cook, Art Dealer Diaries, really nice. Now an Indian dealer goes like this, and they charge. That's a great bracelet. All right, Jim Cook, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, that was excellent. That really.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I kept looking at that bracelet. You'd flip it every once in a while. Oh yeah, it's ingot. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, it's right at turn. We need your support for the Medicine Man Gallery channel, so make sure to click the subscribe button and tap the little bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, which we do every morning on Wednesday and Friday. See you soon.